BhagavatSanga program. As you all know, we are reading Dhruva Maharaj prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the reference for these prayers is from Canto 4, Chapter 9, from verse 6 to 17. These are prayers when Dhruva Maharaj is meditating on Lord Krishna, and then he sees Lord and the prayers he says to the Lord. And today we have two wonderful youth devotees, Jishnu and Dhriti, and they will be giving the presentation. With that, Dhriti and Jishnu, Hare Krishna. We are not able to hear you, Dhriti.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can you see our screen?
Yes, we can see your screen and hear you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayem Shrinvatam Sakata Krishnam Punya Shravana Kirtanam Hridyantasto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Shurutsatam Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnana Jala Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam.
So I'll be saying the Dhruva Maharaj story. So Dhruva Maharaj was born to a great king named Uttanapada. Uttanapada had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi, and two children, Dhruva Maharaj and Uttama. One day when Dhruva Maharaj's stepbrother, Uttama, was sitting on his father's lap, Dhruva Maharaj also wanted to sit on them too. But when he tried, his father simply ignored him. Suruchi, being jealous and selfish, said, "Only God will allow you. Go ask him." Being a child, Dhruva Maharaj ran to tell his mother about this. "I will get this kingdom," he passionately said. His mother said, "Only one person can give you your wish. Tell me his name. I'll go and ask him." And his mother said, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead." He dressed himself in tree bark and went to the forest. He went away from his land and asked anyone and anything if they were God. On the way, he met Narada Muni. He asked why Dhruva Maharaj was in the forest. Dhruva Maharaj said he was going to find Lord Narayana, to find the kingdom he deserved. Narada Muni told him to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. As he said, he went to the bank of Yamuna to meditate. For the first month, Dhruva Maharaj only ate fruits and berries on every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. In the second month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only once every 6 days, and he only ate dry grass and leaves. In the third month, he simply drank water once every 9 days. In the fourth month of his yoga practice, Dhruva Maharaj mastered the breathing exercise, and he would inhale air only every 12th day. In the fifth month, still controlling his breathing, concentrated his mind fully on the Supreme Person and stood on his one leg like a motionless column. In the next month, Dhruva Maharaj became completely absorbed in the trance upon Lord Vishnu, shook the three worlds. All the demigods came to him and asked him to go and tell Dhruva Maharaj to stop him from meditating. So Lord Vishnu came and told Dhruva Maharaj to stop. But to believe him, he asked him to come in his mind, because there was times where he thought he came, but he actually didn't. And when he came in his mind, he opened his eyes. Dhruva Maharaj said anything, didn't say anything. But when Lord Vishnu's conch shell was placed on his forehead, then Dhruva Maharaj recited the prayers. Ekastamevam bhagavam idam atmasakya mayakyayor gunamad adisesham Shishtana Vishaya Purasattada Satkuneshu Naneva Dharshu Vibhavasu Vibhasi. Translation: My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual material world. You create the total energy of the material world by external potency. And after creation, you are entered within the material world as a super soul. You are the supreme person, and although the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. Bhaktimha pravahitam tvame prasango bhuyad anantamahatam amalasayanam yenanjasvo balam urvasanam bhavabdim nisye bhava gunakatamritapana. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj continued, O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate with great devotees who engage in transcendental loving service, constantly as the waves of river constantly flow. Such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing like fire-like dangers. It will be really easy for me, for I'm becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and pastimes, which are eternally existent. So all of our actual real senses are sleeping, and they're used for our sense gratification. The only way to awaken from our sleeping senses is to be with Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj got the mercy of Krishna because he fully surrendered unto Krishna. What we do what our gurus or spiritual master tells us to do without any realization, but as we progress, we understand or realize the process of bhakti. Dhruva Maharaj followed Narada's Munis without any thought, but as he's progressing, he realized why he was doing it. He realized that Krishna in a personal form and his energies are present everywhere, and the energies are not different from Krishna. Without a super soul, the body won't be able to perform our duties. As a fire burns differently for different woods and shape, material energy is used differently for different people. Devotees engage in the service of the Lord, while non-devotees use it for sense gratification. A surrendered devotee will never forget Krishna, even if he's eating, sleeping, and doing his day-to-day duties. The Lord is Atrabandhu, the friend of distressed. An intelligent man will never forget Krishna. You shouldn't worship Krishna for material happiness. Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest for a bigger kingdom than his grandfather's, Swaramanu, but at the end he realized that you shouldn't ask for material happiness. A devotee's happiness comes from chanting and singing, Shravanam and Kirtanam. People do pious activities to go to heavenly planet. People that do pious activities go to heavenly planet, burn their pious activities, and return to the material world or karmis. People that surrender to Krishna and get liberated from birth and death are called devotees. Those who are elevated to the heavenly planets are like airplanes, which drop when they run out of fuel. So the fuel is where our pious activities go, because once we have them, but then they burn away just like fuel. The airplanes are us. Association with devotees will make you a better devotee. This point I actually took a lot from, because associating with devotees can actually make you a better devotee, not only by just doing chanting, singing, and doing your in a direct contact with Krishna, but also having other people, seeing how other people associate or do it with Krishna is a better way to learn, because you can find multiple ways to connect. Crossing the ocean of material existence is really easy to overcome, only if you get mad at hearing at the stories of the Lord. Mad in the sense of being observed in the situation. Just like I said in the beginning, that we do what our guru, spiritual master, tells us to do without any realization, but instead of doing it with force, we can do it with enjoyment. If we do it with other devotees, surrendered devotees aren't attached to pretty much anything. A difference between a devotee and a yogi is that a yogi wants to regulate the breathing process, while a devotee forgets about material body relationships to his wife, children, money, home, and more. When Dhruva Maharaj was touched by Lord Narayan's conch shell, he got the real knowledge. It is said that anyone who has even a little of the Lord's grace can understand his glories. Others may go on speculating on the absolute truth, but they will always be able to understand the Lord. In other words, unless one comes in contact with a devotee, it's not possible to understand the transcendental form or the spiritual world, its transcendental activities. This is like a big point and that combines everything. That's why I kept it in there. An atheistic person might think Krishna as an ordinary being, but Dhruva Maharaj says it's easy to distinguish God from humans. 1, the Lord is eternally liberated. 2, he's not entangled in the 3 modes of material nature. 3, he's not contaminated by the material world. The Lord has infinite amount of potency, but mainly classified into 3 categories: marginal, all the souls; external, material creation; internal, Goloka Vrindavan. Dhruva Maharaj realizes that he doesn't want the kingdom, but wants to be with Krishna only. Even though some people don't know about Krishna, he still gives them mercy. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. My presentation will consist of 2 verses and an overall summary of all of Dhruva Maharaj's prayers. Vadataya vanoye damachashta vishvam shuktu prabhuddha ivana tabhavat prapannam tasya pavargya sharanam tavapadhamulam vishmaryate kritavida katam arta bandho. Translation. O my master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe, just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties. You're the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. How, therefore, can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? So, Brahma even surrendered unto Krishna, and we all understand how great or powerful and rich Brahma is. And even such a personality had to humble himself and say the Brahma Samhita prayers. So this is because Krishna is the actual owner of all our fame, quote unquote fame, rich or money and relationships. And hence, we really don't have any material possessions. So everyone is actually equal and on the same plane. And thus we need all surrender to Krishna equally. Knowledge allows us to understand ourselves and others. So knowledge is rather different from information, since it is practical and we know the source of it. So this is important because whenever we collect information or make speculations about this world, that's not necessarily knowledge. But when we learn about this world through Guru or Shastra, that becomes knowledge. And since Guru and Shastra are bona fide, it's also applicable in our life. Even though one may receive liberation under demigods, Krishna is the only eternal spirit, and hence he is the only person to get eternal shelter from. So demigods, just like us, are souls, not super souls, unlike Krishna. And hence they will also fall down at one point. They themselves don't have liberation. And we can't gain true liberation under someone who doesn't have true liberation. Just like how we cannot get something from someone if they themselves don't have it. But Krishna, on the other hand, is not one of us. He is above us, and hence he has more than us. So if we surrender into Krishna, and attempt to get liberation under Krishna, we're getting true liberation. As long as we are not with Krishna, we are distressed. So just as a baby without his mother or her mother cries, we without Krishna are in distress. And momentarily we may experience certain forms of quote unquote happiness, but since we are not in the eternal position of serving Krishna, where our original constitutional position is, we will be eternally distressed in this world. One who truly learns this cannot forget, since they have experienced a real happiness for the first time. So the previous the verse which I just recited said that one who experiences this knowledge never forgets it. This is because this knowledge gives us light. into our world. And without light, it is difficult for us to actually see things as they are. Once we have this taste of what truth is or what love is, then just like we can't forget strong emotions, we cannot forget this experience. 499. Nunam vimushtamatayashtava mayayate ye tvam bhavapyaya vimokshanam anya heto archanti kalpakatarum kunapopa bhogyam ichanti yachparshajam niraye pinirnam. Translation. Persons who worship you simply for the sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusionary energy. In spite of having you, who are like a desired tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and death. Foolish persons, such as me, desire benedictions from you for sense gratification, which is available for those who live in hellish conditions. So one can worship Krishna for material gain, just as one would do certain offerings or sacrifices to the demigods for material gain. But when we're given the opportunity to worship Krishna, or when we're given the opportunity to chant japa and the Mahamantra, it's better to use our time for better purposes. So it's better to start somewhere, but not something's better than nothing. But whenever we do have this opportunity, we should understand it and use it for learning to love Krishna. When performing service, it is best to perform service without asking anything in return. Hence, Krishna will give you what you need, not what you want. So we should understand that we don't know as much as Krishna, and he knows not only about ourselves more, but about the rest of the world. So when we are asking Krishna for something, we might not be knowing what the outcome of that desire, and there might be a better option. So whenever we do worship Krishna or do japa, it's better that we ask Krishna for positivity, learning to love him, because that is truly what really matters. So our true selves are dormant until Krishna enters our lives. We have senses, but since they're used for the wrong purposes, they're not enlightened. In Krishna look, our senses are used for service of Krishna, and they're used to their fullest potential, because that is our original position. That's what makes us happy. But in this world, we try to replicate that sense of happiness by serving friends or material possessions, and we don't really experience true happiness. So until we use them for Krishna, they're not truly being used to their fullest potential. Krishna has multiple energies used for multiple purposes. That's just for me, it was kind of confusing to understand why he had multiple forms and multiple energies. But Krishna, in a practical sense, it's better to worship him, or easier to worship him whenever he has multiple forms or multiple energies. So one analogy which Prabhupada says about Krishna and his multiple forms, just like a father at work and a father at home. Father at work is usually more serious and very stern, but at home, he's willing to get down on the floor and let his son climb him for fun. So we can thus understand the father better than if we were to say that they're the same person, or they're the same type of person. So similarly, Krishna is the same person in all his forms, but each of his forms have a different purpose. This is Vishnu, it's like the father at work. Krishna, it's like the friend which you go to school with. Although he is the creator of this world, he is separate since he is superior to this world, just as the Father is more respected than the Son. So the parents may have created the child, but even though they have created the Son, they're separate. And hence Krishna is just like this. He created this world, but that doesn't mean he is affected by this world. He just controls it. Due to devotees, one can cross nations, since devotees create a positive atmosphere within a community. So whenever you're doing devotional service with devotees, because of peer pressure and whatnot, we also try to perform devotional service to just as the same standard as they do or better. And also, bhakti with friends is fun. I'd rather do that than doing bhakti or trying to get Krishna consciousness by myself. Due to peer pressure, we want the same things as our friends want. So if we associate with devotees, since devotees want love of Krishna and for Krishna to be happy, we will also desire such. But if we stay with non-devotee friends who usually desire for material prosperity, then we will also desire such. So this is different from brainwashing, and because we are still going to be in contact with non-devotees in this world, and we should admit that, but we don't exchange deep or personal emotions, experiences, because that is association. Association is not just being near people, but it's exchanging emotions. And we have seen that during COVID, how devotees are still exchanging or they're still associating with each other, even though we're physically apart. Once we meet Krishna, we have experienced something we can never unsee. Similar to when one meets something very beautiful or experiences a large amount of joy or distress, strong emotions stick with us throughout this life and many others. So whenever we experience a large amount of happiness or distress at one point, we usually remember that throughout the rest of our lives, such as maybe a great birthday or very bad grade on a test. And we don't forget those for a while because they're very different from what we would normally experience. So this is similar to how we would meet Krishna. And whenever we do experience small moments of ecstasy, since Krishna is completely different from this world, he's completely separate. And the negativity in this world is so drastically different than how positive and beautiful Krishna is. Whenever we do experience ecstasy or some form of very strong bhakti, it sticks with us. There are many forms of Krishna, each with different duties. It's more practical to worship Krishna this way than have all his duties of Krishna in one form. But just like I stated before, with the example of the father at work, the father at home, it is more practical for us to approach Krishna whenever he has different forms, such as the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Krishna, and the Supreme Effulgence. When we perform any action alone in this world, Krishna is always watching us no matter what. So we're never truly alone in this world and in any world, actually. Since Krishna can see everything, he can have and experience everything at any moment in time, he is always with us within our consciousness. And hence, whatever we do, he must experience it as well. So this is because whenever we do an action, we might be desiring that action, such as me desiring to speak, but Krishna sanctions that action. So whenever he sanctions that action, he must know what's happening, or he understands the circumstances and the situation of such action being performed. Impersonalists believe that the Lord can only be approached positively through the Supreme Brahman, the effulgence, and believe that Krishna with the form is when Krishna becomes ignorant. So this is not logical, because we cannot worship someone or consider someone to be God if they're momentarily positive and momentarily negative. Because we ourselves are trying to become positive or full of positivity, bhakti and true love. But we cannot get that if we're praying to someone who doesn't have that. So this description of Krishna is wrong. Krishna is actually always positive. He's always in goodness. It's just he has different forms. And whenever he is in a form like Krishna or Vishnu, we can approach him or have a deity and learn to love him better. When we ask Krishna for something besides bhakti, we are asking for broken pieces of glass compared to the diamonds of bhakti. So Dhruva Maharaj gives this example. He says that he's asking for a kingdom, but whenever he met Krishna, he understood that the kingdom was just small pieces of glass, and that asking for bhakti is more important. So whenever we ask Krishna for something, we must always understand that there's possibly something better, unless we're asking for true love of Krishna. And hence, the one thing we should ask Krishna for is learning to love him and for his happiness. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna. Maybe I imparted some of my realizations into you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Jishnu and Dhriti. That was a truly fantastic presentation. Both of you all covered such fantastic points and so many realizations, right? Like I just can't pick one. There's such beautiful ones. And I like the point you just made in the end that, we are picking the broken pieces when Krishna is actually giving us diamonds. And he knows what we need rather than what we want, right? So that's really fantastic. And the point that, it's better to use our time for higher purposes than, just ask for material benefits. So both Jishnu and Dhriti all made wonderful points and recited the slokas very nicely. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And Dhriti, the narration was very good. It just brought up the whole visualization of what the story was. So great. Thank you very much. With that, devotees, we conclude our BhagavatSanga program today. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you, Mataji. Dhriti and Jishnu, fantastic class. And I just want to maybe Radha Prabhu will take the recording off.